Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Joan Vassos names the sharpest dressed man from her season. Joan Vassos has an eye for style. She loved the looks her golden Bachelorette suitors rocked on the ABC show. Keep reading to find out which one she thought was the sharpest dressed among her 24 suitors. And no, Jess Palmer doesn't count, even though he just released a line of sporty leisure wear. Sharpest dressed golden Bachelorette suitor. The golden Bachelorette men pulled out all the stops when they pulled up to the Bachelor mansion in the limos on the first night. Salon owner Pascal Ivy showed up looking suave in a blue suit. Retired Army Captain Kim Bulk came in his white military uniform. Jack Lencioni serenaded Joan with My Way while wearing a pink suit. But one suitor stood out above the rest of his style. While Joan Vassos didn't form a love connection with Gary Livingston, she appreciated his style. She told Us Weekly that he had the best style of all her suitors. Joan Vassos reveals her favorite dress from season. Unlike her suitors, Joan Vassos had professional help finding the right outfits. Kerry Fettman has been styling the Bachelor Nation leads for over 2 decades. He came under fire for his wardrobe choices for Jen Tran's Bachelorette season. But if Joan Vassos had her way, Kerry Fettman would style her for the rest of her life. Us Weekly asked Joan Vassos which dress was her favorite so far in the season. The Golden Bachelorette lead chose the strapless black leather gown that had a lace-covered slit up to her hip. The Alice plus Olivia gown, $695, was vegan leather. Joan Vassos also loved the dress she wore on her solo date with Pascal. The two jetted off to Vegas for some private time. The date included Joan and Pascal choosing clothes to wear in a fashion show. They were also serenaded by Vegas legend Wayne Newton. The Golden Bachelorette star donned a $1,075 Zimmermann Natura belted mini dress for the date. Joan Vassos, the stunning leading lady from the Golden Bachelorette, sat at her favorite cafe, the late afternoon sun casting a soft glow on her, as she flipped through old photos from her whirlwind journey. She had faced a daunting number of charming, charismatic, and surprisingly fit gentlemen, all vying for her heart. But in the midst of all the roses, romantic escapades, and emotional roller coasters, one thing she couldn't shake from her memory wasn't the tears, the breakups, or even the proposals. It was the impeccable style of one particular suitor. Today, with a mischievous smile on her face, she was finally ready to name the sharpest dressed man from her season. I mean, they all tried. Joan laughed softly, sipping her cappuccino. Some more than others, but there was one man who never failed to surprise me with his fashion choices. Every rose ceremony, every date, every cocktail party, he looked like he had walked straight out of a fashion magazine. The press had been buzzing about her Golden Bachelorette journey for months. Fans loved speculating on everything from who would get the final rose to who had made the worst impression. But after the season finale, a fun new topic had begun trending online. Who was the most stylish man of the season? Joan, always one to keep the fun alive, had decided to play along and finally reveal the answer. I'll give you a few hints, she teased, her eyes twinkling as she turned a photo around to reveal it to the reporter. First of all, he wore more suits than anyone else. I think he had one for every day of the week. Maybe even more. And it wasn't just suits. There were blazers, velvet jackets, silk ties that looked like they cost more than my first car. And let's not forget the perfectly polished shoes. She shook her head with mock amazement, as if recalling how flawless his wardrobe had been felt almost surreal. The man had no wrinkles, ever. Not on his clothes, not in his face. I was beginning to think he might be a fashion android. The cafe quieted around them as Joan leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs and smiling with a faraway look. He was like Cary Grant meets James Bond, you know. Every time I saw him, I thought, well, there's the man who's going to win Best Dressed at the reunion, hands down. The reporter, leaning in, pressed her for more. Was he the kind of guy who cared a lot about how he looked, or was it more effortless for him? Joan let out a thoughtful hum. You know, it's hard to say. He was the kind of guy who could spend hours getting ready. But you'd never know it. He made it look so effortless. Like he could roll out of bed looking red carpet ready. But I'm not fooled. Anyone who puts together those kinds of outfits has to put in some serious thought. But despite his impeccable wardrobe, Joan admitted there was more to this man than just fashion. It wasn't all about the clothes, though, not for him, she said. He knew how to wear his confidence as well as his suits. He never overdid it. His style was a reflection of who he was, calm, collected, and always composed, no matter what was happening around him. Her phone buzzed on the table, and Joan glanced at it, chuckling softly. Oh, look, another fan wants to know if I'll spill the beans today. I've been keeping them guessing long enough. Finally, after much playful build-up, Joan put her cappuccino down, a glimmer of mischief in her eyes. All right, I won't keep you waiting any longer, she said, leaning in conspiratorially. The sharpest-dressed man from my season of the Golden Bachelorette was none other than— She paused dramatically, savoring the suspense. Charles Ling. The name hung in the air like a perfectly tied bow. Charles Ling, the suave, silver-haired gentleman who had charmed viewers from the very first episode, had managed to catch Joan's eye for more than just his smooth conversation and sophisticated mannerisms. His fashion sense had truly been unmatched. Charles always had this air of elegance about him, Joan explained. He was the kind of man who knew exactly what to wear for every occasion, whether it was a casual day on a yacht or a glamorous evening by the fire. But what really set him apart was his attention to detail. His pocket squares were always folded just right, and I swear he owned more cufflinks than most men own socks. Joan's smile widened as she recalled a particular moment from the season. There was this one rose ceremony where Charles showed up in this midnight blue velvet jacket. It wasn't something any of the other men would have dared to wear, but he pulled it off effortlessly. I remember thinking, now that is a man who knows how to make an impression. But Joan admitted that what really sealed the deal for Charles wasn't just his wardrobe. It was how he carried himself in every situation. Fashion can only take you so far, she said. At the end of the day, it's about who you are when you're not wearing a suit. Charles was always kind, thoughtful, and so self-assured. His style was just the icing on the cake. Though Charles didn't win Joan's final rose, his sartorial choices left a lasting impression not only on her, but also on the viewers who had grown fond of his polished looks and sophisticated charm. As the interview drew to a close, Joan glanced down at one last picture of Charles for the season. He may not have been the man I ended up with, but he'll always hold the title of the best-dressed bachelor in Golden Bachelorette history, she said with a grin. And honestly, I don't think anyone will be able to top him for a long time. With that, Joan closed her photo album and stood to leave, throwing a playful wink over her shoulder as she went. The sharpest-dressed man from her season may not have captured her heart, but he certainly left a lasting legacy. One of perfectly tailored suits, a velvet jacket that would go down in reality TV history, and an undeniable flair for fashion that kept the audience and Joan talking long after the cameras stopped rolling.